Hi, everyone. My name is Daria. I am a life coach. I'm a two-time author. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. And I'm the owner of Beyond the Vision, where we are helping women maximize their potential, find their purpose, and live life by design. Today, I have a special guest with me. His name is Laron Josie. He is an investor, he's a businessman, he's a family man, and he is also um, a man of God. And I'm grateful for it because this is actually my brother. So I'm
Right.
so grateful that I've had someone in my life that is was shooting for more, and he was shooting for more, and that helped me to shoot for more. So I'm going to start off today with our Bible reference, which is Romans
Before you get
12. Go ahead.
before you get started, I gotta give you $20 for that introduction. That was a lovely introduction. It was amazing. But go ahead.
Oh, you're welcome.
Proceed.
You are welcome. So we're going to start off with Romans 12, verse 2 through 6. And it reads, and do not be conformed to this world any longer with the supernatural values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually by the renewing of your mind, focusing on godly values and ethical attitudes, so that you may prove for yourself what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect in his plan and purpose for you. For by the grace of God given to me, I say to every one of you not to think more highly of himself and of his importance and abilities that he ought to think, but to think so as to have sound judgment, as God has apportioned to each a degree of faith in and a purpose designed for service. For just as in one physical body we have many parts, and these parts do not all have the same function or special use, so we, who are many, are nevertheless just one body in Christ, and individually we are parts one to another, mutually dependent on each other. Since we have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, each of us is to use them accordingly. If someone has the gift of prophecy, let them speak a new message from God to his people in proportion to the faith possessed. Amen.
Amen.
And
Amen to that.
so I we chose that scripture because that scripture tells a lot about how our life, this is what we had to do. We had to get out of our situation. We had to not conform to what we seen because, of course, we was raised in what they consider the hood. And so, if we had to make a decision, we had to make a decision what we wanted to do. Did we want to live the lifestyle that we grew up with, or did we want to grow beyond that? And so, all three of us, which included our other brother, we chose to the latter. We wanted to live um, more successfully. We wanted to live a more successful life. And so that when you live in when you're looking for a more successful life, you lose some stuff on the way. And so, we lost some friends, we lost some family,
Right.
uh, we lost the ghetto mindset. We still know the survival um, tactics, but we also know how to make money on a different level now. And so um, it was hard for a lot of people to understand, like what we were doing, because we just didn't want to live the life that we grown up with. And so that's why we said, because there was a lot of stuff that happened, and this is why we named it I was raised out of fire, because there was a lot of fires that we had to put out as well. So I want to get into our questioning because I don't want to keep you long.
Hmm.
Okay, so our first question tonight is, when did you discover that your environment wasn't going to dictate the plans that you had for your life?
Ooh, that's a good question. Great question. I would say back in well, I'm gonna have a different sequence when I talk, but
Okay.
uh, kind of go off the top of my head. But one of the situations, this ain't the first situation, but one of the situations, I'm pretty sure you're gonna remember this, was the fact that when my father passed away.
Mm,
Right? Was that
mm,
1999? He
mhm,
died right before my graduation, and the only two people that was in my corner at the time was you and mom, and
mhm,
you was the only ones that showed up at the graduation. So, with that being said, that summer I was pretty depressed. Um, I had a lot of anxiety at the time. I didn't know which direction to go, and I
mhm.
just remember the one time when you basically, you saw how it must have been the Holy Spirit or what have you, but you saw how things were going with me,
Mhm,
and so I was thinking about just calling it quits and doing nothing. And you was like, no, you want to go to this college tour. I'm gonna pay
mhm.
for it for the last dime I have. So that was one of the things that inspired me at the time. The second thing, to rewind,
Right.
was 1989. That was a huge year because that was a year when we first moved to Braddock.
Mhm.
Now, for people who don't know, that's about 15, 20 minutes away from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And being there, I didn't know that how we were living because everybody was living like that. It was such
Right.
a great community looking back because
Right.
everybody knew each other. It was amazing. Like you can go walk down the street and all our aunts and uncles. Shout out to excuse me, Aunt Valerie. Shout out
Mhm.
to Uncle Leon. They were all in the area. So you didn't need a car. It was like certain things you
Right.
just didn't need. You get me? Remember?
Right.
And um, but however, this is when I first realized about entrepreneurship. Okay,
Mhm.
because mom. Shout out to Marlene. I know she's gonna be
Mhm.
watching this, but she did
Hey,
everything she
mom.
could.
Mhm.
She did everything she could. But what I realized was when I used to go with my father certain places. Okay,
Mhm.
so he had a whole day planning. Like so, the morning he's gonna play his numbers.
Right.
Win the lottery, pretty much.
You know
Right,
exactly what he was gonna do.
right. But then he would go to his friend. He always saw his best friend every day, which is you probably know the name, but he used to go to the cleaners. What was
Mhm.
the guy's name? Yeah,
I
I
forgot.
can't remember
I'm
offhand.
thinking about
But
Gene, but or
yeah, on Braddock Avenue.
mhm.
So he owned his own business. So I'm like, wow. So he would sit there hanging with him for a little bit. Then he'd be like, "You want something to eat?" That's how I used to talk. So I'm like, "You want something to eat?" So we would go to Bert's. Bert's owned his own store,
Right.
you know. So
Right.
we would go there. And then at night he used to go out and hang out every Friday night. And one of his best friends was Gibbs down Third Street. So and
Yeah, he had
Gene
a
and Eileen.
bar.
So right. So
Mhm.
this is when I was first realizing about entrepreneurship. Now, the second time was in our environment where I didn't want to be the same as you know, I don't know if Alan, my childhood friend Alan Trow knew this, but it was a point where I used to walk from Ben Fairless, the people from that listen to that know about Ben Fairless. I used to walk from Ben
Mhm.
Fairless like 91, 92. He always had a bag of chips and a drink. And I'm like, how? I just walked up here with you. How did you get this stuff? So he wouldn't tell me. He'd just be like, I want it from a bet. I'm like, so one day I just followed him. Okay.
Mhm.
Because I wanted me a bag of chips. I wanted chips
Right.
too. So like, where you get this stuff from? So he said the name. He said Jim. So I was all right. So I followed him.
Mhm.
Jim Lou was in the store. The store on Kemp called Kim's. Everybody know
Right.
Kim's.
Right.
So Jim would go in there and say, run in there and get some chips and run out.
Uh-huh.
And his mom would say, speak that language, you know, and he would give it to him. So that's another thing I learned about networking because I started getting chips too because that's how I got friends with Jim Lou.
Right.
So I just realized there was something bigger, like people were entrepreneurs and what have you at the time. And the last but not least, we had that in our house. Um,
Mhm. Family too.
you know, Dante, shout out to Dante Josie because he taught me about entrepreneurship, investing, and saving money. Because when we were living in Braddock, the first initial, and he saved his money and ended up investing in some equipment. So therefore, at that time, we saw when he was nothing, and then he became something. Like where everybody was in the neighborhood coming into our house, and he was charging them. So that's where I learned about not getting outside the box, and I wanted to do something different. And the last but not least, but there was a particular time, and a lot of people, this is like a myth, like a folktale or what have you. But one day I was at his house, and he was telling me, "Be quiet because I got this guy from Wu-Tang Clan coming to the house." I'm like, "Really?" I didn't even know what Wu-Tang was. I couldn't Google it at the time. Couldn't do none of that, right? But I called someone. We didn't have cell phones then, so I called somebody at his house, and I called R.I.P. Jason Lewis. I called him and said, "Hey, you know some dude named Wu-Tang coming to the house?" And he was all like, "What? Wu-Tang coming to your house?" So he was the first person I told, and I saw the guy come, and I saw the transaction. It was amazing. So that kind of changed me. I knew it was something bigger.
Wow. Those stories are amazing. And as your sister, I'm like, wow, because see, this is what I say. You never know what kids are watching.
Yeah.
You was like our younger brother, and you just learned how to be a boss. You learned how to be an investor. You learned sales as a child. And then that sparked something in you to desire more. So that was amazing. And of course, my story was, I've seen a lot of activity for, drug activity and, and seeing fights, wanting to, have more money per se. I think mine was like kind of built around money, because I wanted what I seen. And I
Right.
think I went after that. And so then I realized that there was something in me that wanted to be an entrepreneur as I watched, different people make money, and I watched our family members, go into real estate. Our grandmother, she was big
Yes.
in real estate. And
Yes, she
so,
was.
yeah. And so we knew that there was another way. And so we didn't look at our situation. We looked at where we were going. And that was amazing, because honestly, we didn't really understand that everything that we learned as a child, we're living it now. So we didn't really
Right.
understand that. So that was a great answer, and I really appreciate that. So we're going to go on to the next question, which is, when we begin to grow outside of the box, there's a different mindset that we have to take on. What was your shifts as you began to grow in business and in family?
Great question again. Great question. My shift was I had to stop being a. I had to go through the fire when I was afraid. That was the worst thing.
That's
You
good.
know, growing up, a lot of people who probably watched this video would like to. If they remember, there was like Ronnie was quiet. That was the name that my family called me. They were saying I was quiet, but really I was observant. You know, and a lot of it was too that the self-esteem issue. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, so there was a point where you're getting talked about. You're now at this point you're afraid to get talked about, so you don't want to be seen in the room.
Mm.
So one thing I had to make the shift was like I wanted more, but I knew my comfort zone wouldn't allow that.
Mm-hmm.
I was comfortable with the way the public school system taught me, which was don't speak out, conform to everything. And there was a point where I start questioning things. I always would say, question what you're learning. You
Mm-hmm.
know, question what's going on. There's a story I like to say about a ham. Where this grandmother was cutting the off the half the ham, like the piece off of the ends,
Mm-hmm.
and no one questioned it. You know, until the granddaughter says, "Hey, why do you cut the ends of the ham off?" He's like, "Oh, that's just his recipe way back in the day."
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, "Well, who taught you that?" So she went to the person who taught her that. They said the same thing. And then so there was a great grandmother still living, and they went to the great grandmother and said, "Why do you cut the ends off your ham?" She's like, "Because the pan was too little."
Wow.
So I had to realize I had to ask questions: why we're acting like this? Why are we doing this? Because we don't know why this is the norm.
Mm-hmm.
So so at one point I broke the rules, which I'll talk about later. But I broke the rules, you know. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't break the law, but I broke the rules, and I had to be okay with being laughed at, being ridiculed.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 steps when you look at a business, when you open a business, and it's a very scary thing because you get ridiculed the first time, step. You get violently opposed the second step. They're gonna be like, why are you doing what you're doing? You crazy. Why don't you do this? Come in the cow pasture over here. Okay. And then after that, it becomes self-evident. So you got to ask yourself where you want to put yourself. Because usually when it's self-evident, you come in and now you're a consumer instead of a producer.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's
And
amazing.
then right. And then also just as a thought, but you know, there's no difference between a hero and a coward, right? They both have the same anxiety, the same feelings. Coward just not going to act. A hero is going to do it and they're scared anyway. It's like if there was a burning building and there's a kid in there, your why is bigger. So you're going to go in there, you're scared, but the adrenaline's pumping, you're going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I found when I stepped over that boundary, that line, is the fact that the stuff I was scared about didn't even really happen. It didn't even exist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pretty
And I
sure you have that all the time.
Yeah, I had that big time. Like, and then you still have that little feeling. I guess it's just your instinct, your fear instinct, because you always have that little feeling there. But once you
Yep,
step over that boundary, then you realize it's not as bad as what your mind made
absolutely,
it out to be.
absolutely.
And
Because
so
you need small wins. You know, you
mhm,
need small wins, or you need to see other people do it. Like I remember the first time, like what opened my dream space was, you know, we grew up in an area where athletics was the big deal.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you're a
Mm,
singer, athletics or something for African Americans is always acting on our bodies and our strength and what have you. And when I first time I saw some of my colleague or my people that was in my grade on
mhm,
TV, I was like,
mhm.
"Can that happen?" And
Right,
they were playing for. I'm like, "Wow, they was broke as me, but they was there," you know.
right,
And then seeing uh, you know, Steve Preston and them on TV, like, "Wow, you at the Super Bowl, like your dream came true." I
right,
remember when we used to talk about this stuff in our
right.
house, like, you
Right
know,
across
it
the
was
street
amazing.
from us. Like
It was
that was
amazing.
amazing. Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was so how on the other part of that, your family, like how did our dynamics make you such a great father, make you such a great family man?
Great question. Great question. You know, shout out to my father, Robert Briston. He was a great father. He did what he can do. But there was, I took the good and then the stuff that lacked, I wanted. Uh, I wanted to implement that in my children. And that's the thing. Like, if you notice with anybody when you're dealing with someone, they're um, treating you like they want to be treated.
Hmm.
You know, like you'll give somebody a gift because you want to give in return.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like, so right. So there were certain things that I wanted. You know, I wanted to be more interactive with my children and what have you, and um, that's where I learned it. And you know, we had a lot of great influences on our family as well. So you know,
Hmm.
I took a piece of everybody. I think the blessings that I had was in our group. I was the youngest, so I was able to watch. Excuse me. I was able to watch. All right, I'm not going to do that, but I'll take this. I'll do that. I want that. I want to do this. You know, and that's just the blessing of watching. Sometimes you got to just be quiet and listen. You know, and watch and
Absolutely.
soak that up. You know.
Yeah, they used to call me Eyewitness News because I used to sit there and because I'm a an introvert, and we didn't
Right.
know what an introvert was back then. And so, I used to just sit there and watch people. And then I would
Yep.
repeat some of the stuff and some of the stuff I wouldn't, but
Mhm.
um I wasn't always an introvert though. Something in
Yeah.
my life had to happen for me to mute like I did. And so I
Hmm.
decided at one point in my life that I was going to be an introvert. And then I kind of liked it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so
It's cool, man. I mean, I
and
understand.
it took hold of my characteristics. And sometimes being an introvert is a bad thing, because like just like we're on this quarantine in the house. I can sit here, I can find all kinds of stuff to do in the house.
I ain't missing nothing.
I know. That's what you know, so I'm like, And so it takes me getting online and doing different things to keep me active, because there's times I'm like, oh, what day is it? Like, 'cause
Mhm.
now,
I
like,
find something to do, just like you.
yeah, it's just, and I'm comfortable. Um, but I know that there's more in life, like with me getting ready to start motivational speaking and speaking in ministry and different stuff like that. So I need to be an extrovert at times, and then there's times I need to be an introvert. So
Yeah.
that's how our conversations go when we are on the phone. We get into these conversations. We be like, "Oh yeah, this part. Wait a minute, guess what happened?"
2 hours. 2 hours later,
Yeah.
we're on the phone.
So let's stick to the. Okay, so question 3. What examples are you trying to set for the younger generation?
Yeah, these are some great questions. I would say to break the rules. Gotta break the rules.
This is gonna get good, y'all. This is gonna get good. Go ahead.
uh, I wouldn't say break the law, but break the rules.
Right.
Now if you go way back in early times and I'm talking a little bit about slavery, but
Mm-hmm.
when slavery was about, like, imagine, let's say I can't cook, which I know I can.
Mm.
I can cook,
Yeah, you cook.
but let's say I couldn't. Let's say I couldn't, right? And somebody was in my house fixing, making me meals all the time, right? Uh, and then all of a sudden, someone says that, and it's for free, and someone just basically say that, you know what, you don't have to make meals for me anymore. Now at this point, I don't know how to cook, right? This guy has all the skills, okay? So, but he's scared to leave because he's comfortable in my house, all right?
Mm,
So now I have to make a decision like, okay, well, maybe if I give him a little bit, keep and say you're gonna have some benefits staying here, you'll stay here. Okay.
mm,
And that's kind of like what happened with us, with our forefathers. Like they had all the skills. And if you notice, outside of slavery, they're the ones who was creating all these businesses at the time and getting married. Our marriage rate was high and
mm,
everything was going on. And they needed to figure out how they can keep us there by giving us some benefits. Like the benefits that was placed with, that's why a lot of people didn't leave slavery, because they got benefits. It's scary when you got to bet on yourself.
mm.
Very scary when you have to bet on yourself.
Better say it.
And so now, think about it. So now the whole school system, all the wealthy people got together and started this college thing, basically saying the A students get straight A's. When you go to make sure you get to class early, or we're gonna press a bell, or you're gonna hear the bell ring. What happens in the factory? It's the same thing. So you get scared because you're gonna lose your benefits. You don't want people talking about you. And so fast forward to, when we were up there, our parents, they did the best they could.
Mm-hmm.
However, what they did was they wanted someone else to give us the answers. So they said, you got to go to college to give us the answers. And we're college graduates. We went there and we realized the answer's not there. It's
Mm-hmm.
all one big bubble. So I would say break the rules. Like my son right now, he's in college right now, but I told him, like, live your dreams. You're only 18 months. He wants to be a comedian. I said, you can do this now, because you can always go back to school. Don't let them fool you.
Right.
Honestly, I think like going to college early anyway, all they doing is cutting up. You're
Right.
more mature at 24, 25, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I told them that. And also what I did was with them that we didn't do with ourselves was I actually started an account for all of them to participate in. So Layla and Ron, uh, they have an account that they add money in together. And
That's
and if they need
good.
to use the money, they have to vote on it, on what they want to use the money on. To create that, we need to start creating our own banks.
You're right. You're
Um,
so right. And this is what
and
I'm doing with my son as well. Because he's getting ready to turn 16.
we should do that. We should all do it. Like, now that you say that, I'm like, Jaden and my kids, they should create their own bank, and we can all do that together, because that's what it's about. But go ahead, listen.
Oh, go ahead.
Um, People don't notice, but how Motown got started was Berry Gordy's family was doing this back in the 40s and 30s and 50s. right? And so Barry Gordy was making music for this, and it was him and Smokey Robinson was making music, but they wasn't getting paid for it too well, you know. So Smokey said, "Why don't you do it for just do it for ourselves?" And Barry realized that their family was all collecting money together every month. They would put money every time they get their paycheck, so they had a lot of money. And $5,000 was a lot of money back then.
Mm-hmm.
And they voted, they all voted for him to start this company, and that's how I got birthed. You
Mm.
know,
I didn't know that.
imagine it. Yeah, imagine if we do that now. You know, because like right now with this pandemic going on,
Yeah.
a lot of people are bankrupt, and I'm not saying just financially. A lot of people bankrupt health wise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on because now you're worried because you're bankrupt and this virus is going on. And if you notice, like more healthier people are getting through it. Not saying you're not going to get it, but you're
Right.
getting through it because your immune system's strong. People's immune systems are bankrupt. You know.
This is what they said today. They said that's why Black America is getting hit so hard because of the heart disease and the diabetes and the obesity that is in our in our families. Like that's what's taking us out. And
Yep.
so um before the quarantine, I have been really trying to just like get I don't have any of them elements, thank God, but I'm trying to do preventative measures. I don't want to be,
Absolutely.
I'm trying to lose weight. I lose a pound a week,
Mhm.
and I'm so super excited about it.
Man, I'm
And it
popping.
feels good, huh?
Yeah, I said I'm popping vitamin C tablets like they're Skittles right now.
Right? I got my vitamin C. I got my apple cider vinegar gummies. I got my multivitamins. I got my black seed oil. Like whatever's gonna curb my
Yep.
appetite naturally.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's what that was good. And I think a lot of the youth they really need to learn about entrepreneurship because they don't want our businesses. Like, and so that I think that model is gone.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing their own thing. This new generation, Generation X, I believe it is, um, they're like socialists. Like they like their own groups. They like, they'll build their businesses off of social media. They
Right.
don't want your brick and mortar.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
and they making millions off of it because
Yeah.
I'm looking at my son's like Instagram accounts and stuff like that. They get like 2,000 followers very quickly. It's
Wow.
like nothing. And
Dang.
so he got on TikTok the other day, did a video and went viral that quick. So
Hmm.
they do support each other. And so we have to learn how to adapt that model. Like, okay, well, I know that I want to leave generational wealth for my child, but I need to teach them how to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to teach them my business, so to speak.
Yeah.
Teach them the trade of an entrepreneur. And then they
Right.
also
Right.
have to learn how to work because, they need to know what that feels like, to have a 9 to
Yeah.
5.
Right.
And so to be up under a boss and to, have to ask somebody to go to the doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And that will give them
Yep.
the drive to be an entrepreneur, you know.
Yeah. Piggyback on what you're saying, I think all kids need to learn how to sell. All
Yes.
kids need to learn how to sell.
I wish you set up
Because you,
a teaching because oh my
yeah,
god, like you did like a Zoom teaching on for the youth on how to sell because you're a master at it, and so
right, right,
that would be excellent. But we'll talk
right,
about
right.
that on another day.
Yep,
Um,
yep. So you have to learn how. You have this generation need to learn how to sell, man. It's like such a bad word, but we have to sell everything. Like my kids sold me on not eating their dinner tonight. You know what I mean? And um, they won. So um, we had to sell on getting a girlfriend or a woman or being married and different things like that. You got to sell everything. Everything. You got to learn the art of communication. That's the problem I have with the youth now because, like you said, they don't communicate. What they do is they text. Now, maybe we are dinosaurs and we have to learn that way as well. But at the most part, you're going to have to get in front of what somebody and sell them on your vision and make a decision. You know, because the salespeople make the big money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about. You know, you got to sell people to watch the podcast. You got to sell people to do all types of things. So that's what I encourage my kids to do at this point right now as well. And you know, once you do that, that's the part of being an entrepreneur. That's 90% of being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got
Learning how
to
to
teach
sell.
communication. You know, you got to find out like when you're talking to someone, if one person's talking in a conversation, I call it a con. You know, if they're just doing all the talking, it has to be a two-way street. You know,
Mm,
and listening leads to a lot of things. You know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
that's big. That's big, and I
Hmm.
hear that as a business owner. Like they want to know what you can do for them, and they don't
Hmm.
care about
Yep.
your accolades. They don't care about your awards. They don't care about none of that. They
Yep.
want to know how you can
Yep.
help them. And so, yeah, that is great. So our last and final question. This is a great conversation. I'm sure we could go on for days, but this is a good one. God is speaking some very profound truths to you during this time. Can you give us insight into how this pandemic will affect our economy long term, and what type of deposits should we be making into our mindset as we reset or reform?
Um, well, the key word you said is reset. I
Mm-hmm.
think we all getting a reset here. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we've been busy running, ripping and running with the kids, and people got two jobs, and people, you know, out here struggling. And I think this is, if you look at it in a way, is you got a chance to sit down and spend time with your family and just think about what's happening because the world is moving so quickly. You know, I would say moving forward that it's going to get back to what it is, and there's going to be some people who's victims. I like to call them victocrats. You know, and there's going to be some people victors. There's going to be some people. You know, if you look at the crashes in the past, you know, there was a crash in 1995. That was the same as the London's crash.
Mm-hmm.
112 banks closed, and after that, people made it through that. You know, uh, 2001 we had that situation going on. You know, and then 2008 the housing crash, which it didn't affect me too much at the time, but it affected a lot of people, and people came out of that. So I believe this situation is going to make us stronger because usually when something happens, we all will start working together. You know, and that's huge because wealth is a team sport,
My
and it's not
God.
just about wealth. It's not just about wealth, but a lot of people are like AIs. Allen Iverson. If you notice, Allen Iverson was one of the greatest individual players ever. He would score 60 points on you, but lose the game. See,
Mm,
we're losing the war because these other people,
that was
these
good.
other these other these other cultures are teaming up and they're ganging against you, and you only can do so much. Jordan actually played a game in 1986 against Boston. Boston had 5 Hall of Famers on the team, including Larry Bird, and he scored 63 points on there. And you know they still lost,
Mm,
and he had nobody to pass the ball to.
right.
You know,
Wow.
so
Wow.
this should teach us that we need to work together, like health wise. You know, we need to call the people that you ain't been calling, texting, whatever, what have you, because we don't know. Like real people are dying. Like I thought this was a hoax at one point. I really did. I was like, man, sitting back, like, oh, this is nothing. Until you start seeing people dying that you know, and it's like, all right, this is serious, you know. So I think this is a reset. I think this is a reset for everybody's health. You know, we need to get our health in order. You know, health is wealth. And then, as far as like the money, we need to learn how money works. Like everybody, like a lot of people's like looking forward to this check, but they don't understand that the stimulus check is nothing but a loan, and they're going to get their money back through taxes, inflation, and everything else,
Hmm.
and we're going to have to pay for it. So
You
we
better
need to
say
know
it.
how money works.
Just
Yeah,
like
we
they
need to start
pulled it
buying
out of
some
thin
assets.
air, they gonna get it back. you
They
know.
getting it back.
Hmm.
Like right now, eggs was 99 cents. Now it's $3 $4 because of supply and demand.
Crazy.
You
We went
know,
to the store to get some orange juice. It was almost $5. I was like,
right?
man.
So
Mm,
this is what happens. So the companies, the the government's going to try to go after the business owners. The business owners going to raise their prices for goods because they don't want to pay for it. They're going to have us pay for it. That's what's going to happen. So I just feel like right now we need to really think and try to figure out how you can exchange paper dollars for assets. That's what it's about right
That's
now.
what it's
If you get
about.
the assets, if you get the assets, it's always going to um if inflation happens, you're going to the assets always going to be equal to whatever's happening. So give you an example, back in 1990, when we first moved to Braddock, a house, you could say a house was 130,000, a car
Was
was
it?
$9,000. Yeah,
Hmm.
right. Might have been lower. Now a car is like $40,000. So imagine you saved up $40,000 or $50,000 from 1990, right? You
Hmm.
can buy way more with that dollar now. Back then, now you can't even buy anything with it. So you got to exchange it for assets. That's what we need to learn. But that's what I'm trying to teach our kids now. So yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing.
it's all about.
That's amazing, and that I commend you for teaching your family. See, this is the kind of stuff that families need to learn, not just one person individually. Like, we need to sit down and teach our families about investments and assets and liabilities and credits and debits. Like, we need to sit down and teach our families, like, people gonna get this $1,200 and realize that was just like a 2-week paycheck. And then the fact that you don't have anything in your house right now, that ain't gonna be that, because you got to pay bills with it. I think the
Yep,
economy
absolutely.
should have really thought about, giving people like 100 points on their credit score or something more of a value to people than this money, because you just want us to put the money back into the
Yeah,
economy, and so it still ain't gonna work that way.
yeah.
You know,
We
it's
need more uh God fearing people who love God. They're
amen.
gonna to get the money, and because a lot of the wicked people run the business, and
Right.
you're asking for a wicked person to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So I feel like us as Christians and people that love Jesus, that we need to get our stuff together. If you notice, and I might be quoting the story right, you can let me know. But um, was it Joseph who they he knew the famine was coming, right,
Mm-hmm.
Joseph? And he was prepared to take care of the city.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like if he would have went on day to day and not took heed to that dream, then they would have all perished.
Yeah.
So we have to take the reins on that now and learn about stuff we don't want to learn. Stop
Mm-hmm.
buying these depreciable items and start doing it so we can give back. We shouldn't worry about the government doing it. We should do it as
He
people.
should
There's
be
so
doing
many
it.
Christians in the country.
Yep.
Yeah,
And God left
like
us
down
in
here.
charge of it. He told us in Genesis, like, we are in charge. I just did a video on that called Dig Again, because God left us in charge of the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom. We have at least 12 kingdoms that we are actually over. And I think we took that for granted.
We did.
And so it was
It's funny you
like,
say that. Go ahead,
yeah,
I'm
like,
listening.
it's crazy. And so now everything is jacked up, and so it's like you said, we are on a reset. We are on a reset, and that's why we shouldn't take this time lightly. We should be learning, we should be communicating with each other, we should be supporting each other, just all of that, because we don't know what the next tragedy is going to be. We don't know,
That's
like,
right.
there's always something, and we don't know what direction it's coming from, but this time we need to be ready for it. This
Right.
time you need to have your body together. This time you need to have your savings
Spiritual
and your
warfare.
family. Yeah. Like, God is like, okay, y'all been playing here. So this time you need to have your church, your ministry together. Like,
Yep.
this time you need to have, like,
That is amazing, though. It is amazing because we went back to how we used to be, where the ministry was in your house.
yep.
Everybody's having church now. You notice that people
And
having
I
church in their
and
house.
and I'm gonna tell everybody right now, my brother and I was talking on the phone, and he came out his mouth and said, I believe this is the Holy Spirit, but you need to start a church. And I'm like, I ain't starting, because I'm thinking about the building and all that. I was like, I ain't starting no church. I ain't doing that. I was like, I'm gonna keep doing my little ministry. And so the next week, it was like a week or two. And that's when the corona broke out. And then I was on something. Oh, I was listening to something, and I tagged him in it because she said the same thing. She was like, "You should be starting a church at home." And I said, "This is what he was talking about." I was like, I didn't get it, but the Lord was telling him, and he was telling me, this is what I should be doing in my home. This is how I should be, doing the work for the ministry. And so that was awesome. And, I called him and gave him his kudos on that, because, I wasn't thinking, I was like, I am not starting no church building, because I seen all the problems in it. And I was like, but I've been doing exactly that after that, I've been preaching and teaching, and, get my family together. We've been having Bible studies and just all of that. And so now my husband is taking the ranges of that, but we starting to do it. We are
shout out to Greg.
He's doing his thing now. So we're gonna wrap it up here. This is the end of the show tonight. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think I touched on it. Just if you want to follow my family, we actually have a Christian vlog that we do. It's Josie's Juggling Life on YouTube, and also I started a YouTube page for my son Brennan. For you have kids, if you're tired of having all this crap, on TV or whatever, just follow us on YouTube. He got his channel is Brennan's World, and we're about to launch a podcast, which is called Thanks for Being Honest, with my wife and Sharonda. So follow her as well, Sharonda Josie, and put the link on your stuff. So,
all right, let's see. What is it, Josie?
Josie's Juggling Life.
Life. I'll put it in the chat.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There you
go. So I thought that this broadcast was certainly amazing, and we should do more of them, because there's a lot of views that I think that the world should have. I mean, that the world should know, like, your opinion matters just like everybody else's, but most of the time your opinion is fact and it's truth. So we definitely got to have you back on.
That's right.
And tell your wife.
You got to go on our podcast too. So we're going to do it that way as well. So.
Tell your wife I'm coming for.
Right. Oh, you got to have her on too. So you got to.
Yeah,
that's
what I'm coming for. But I want everyone to have a great night, and tell my nieces and nephews I said good night.
Definitely will. Tell Jaden I said what's up as well.
I sure will. You all have a wonderful evening.
Alrighty.